With the World Cup now less than a week away, I have yet to drop my World Cup predictions. That is why today I will be speedrunning through every single team, giving you my predicted group stage finish, scoreline predictions, and a player to watch from every single team at this World Cup. We start with Group a group with fairly even competition throughout, with the hosts Mexico, South Africa, South Korea, and Czechia. I spent a really long time going back and forth with my decision on this one, but in fourth place, I think I'm gonna shock everyone, but I think South Korea finished last. Look, I know what everyone's gonna say, how can you have them finishing last? But I think that this is a transition year for South Korea, especially transitioning from a team with less of a focus on Son Heung-min. With that being said, my star player going into this tournament in the absence of a prime Son Heung-min is Kang In Lee, who will have very big shoes to fill. And to continue with this weird analogy, this is because the current Son Heung-min, I don't think, can fill the shoes of what he previously could when he was in his prime. I feel like this is a team that usually prides itself on being the underdog, and in a group where everyone's kind of on that same platform, I don't feel like they will benefit a lot from that, mentality that they used to have. I see them losing against Czechia and Mexico in their first two games before bowing out with a draw against South Africa on their last day. In third place, with a really big chance of qualifying into the next round, I'm going with South Africa. The Bafana have a very solid team, which is mainly comprised of CAF Champions League winners, Mamelodi Sundown players, and Orlando Pirate players. For them to have the best chance of going through into that next round, they'll need Lyle Foster to really pick up on the goal scoring. His recent form with the Bafana going 4 games without scoring really shows that he'll really need to step up on the goal scoring front if they want to have a chance of making it out of this group. My star player in this Bafana group, and a player that I very much admire, is Mokoena, who was also a goal scorer in the CAF Champions League final. I see them finishing with 3 points, all of them coming from draws, but if Lyle Foster steps up and scores some goals, they could easily surprise people. In second place, I have Czechia, who qualified through the European playoff spot ahead of Denmark. Overall, Czechia have a very solid team, but it's not a team that I expect to blow this group out of the water. With that being said, I do think that this is a team that goes undefeated in this group. I do see them beating South Korea on that first day by slim margins, drawing to South Africa, and then not being able to secure that top spot by drawing to Mexico on the final game week. I see Lyon's man Pavel Sulch being a big player for Czechia alongside the obvious Patrick Schick. Also, Adam Holzek, despite coming back from a long-term injury, I really expect him to be a big player for Czechia, and I think he can cause some problems for some of the teams in this group. In first place, and the only host I have actually finishing first in their group, I have Mexico. At first, I'm going to be completely honest, I had them finishing a bit lower, but obviously I'll be going to Mexico, to Monterrey to watch Tunisia play, so I obviously want to be on their good side. I don't want... No, obviously I'm joking, that's not the main factor why I put them first. But in a group where everyone is evenly matched, I think that home advantage will play a massive factor. In this group, I have them also going undefeated with a draw to South Africa on the first day, a 2-1 win to South Korea, followed by a draw against Czechia, seeing them go first on goal difference. My player to watch is obviously going to be Gilberto Mora, the 17-year-old Mexican, who will look to make it his tournament in front of his fans. But also look out for the more experienced players as well. You have Alexis Vega, a very talented winger, but on top of that, you have a player with more goals than Cristiano Ronaldo this year in the Saudi Pro League, 33-goal man Julian Quinones. Moving on to Group B, we have another host group with Canada, Qatar, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Switzerland. Look, I hate doing it to my Arab brothers, and it's a country that I really want to visit as well. But in last place with 0 points this tournament, I have Qatar. They actually have very decent players. Akram Afif is a player that kind of reminds me of Youssef Lemsekni for Tunisia, a very talented winger. But unfortunately, I think the quality gap between them and every team in this group is a bit too high. I predict that they will lose every single game in this group. However, I do expect that game against Canada to be a close one, with my predicted score being 2-1 for Canada. Obviously, the players to watch, Akram Afif is a very good player, but also look out for the experienced defender Pedro Miguel. In third place, I have Bosnia-Herzegovina, who qualified through the European playoff spots, beating out Italy. Bosnia and Herzegovina is a team that I admire very much. They have what I like to call the perfect balance of very experienced older players and a crop of young talented players coming through. In that first game, I predict that Canada will surprise them, meaning that they will have to pick up points in their final game against Qatar, because I don't really see them beating a very strong Swiss team in game week 2. With them collecting 3 points with their only win coming against Qatar in this group, it'll be very hard to qualify into that next stage as one of the best third place teams, but it's not impossible. The players I have my eyes on have last names that I can't really pronounce, but I'll try. Amar Dedic from Benfica is a player that I very much admire as a right back, along with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Esmir Bajraktarevic from PSV, who is also a creative direct winger that I've watched a lot, and he's someone that I think will impress a lot of people in this tournament. In second place, and I promise there's no Canadian bias because I actually fully believe this, I see Canada. They're at home for all 3 games. They're hungry for a first World Cup win. And let's be honest, a World Cup in Canada, this is an opportunity that they won't get ever again. Key injuries to Marcelo Flores, who, by the way, what a player. That guy is crazy. I watched him live against Tunisia. My God, wow, what a talent. And on top of that, Alphonso Davies, who will likely be coming by game week 2 of the group stage, means that they will have a much weaker left side. However, I expect the returning Promise David and Moise Bombito to be big factors for Canada in this group stage. I actually see them going undefeated in this group stage, with wins coming against Bosnia and Herzegovina and Qatar before drawing against a very tough Switzerland team, finishing in second with 7 points. And in first in this group, I have to go with the Swiss, who in my opinion have the best squad in this group. The Swiss are scary in Europe, they're scary normally in World Cup group stages, and in this World Cup, I expect that tradition to continue. The first game for them against Qatar will allow them to get into the groove of things very easily before they have tougher tests against Bosnia and Herzegovina and Canada in the upcoming game weeks. I see them finishing on 7 points with an easy win against Qatar, a tough win against Bosnia and Herzegovina, followed by a draw against Canada on the final game week, seeing them finish first on goal difference. The standout players, of course, still exist. The Granit Xhakas, the Dan Ndoyes, I think they will be very good for them in this group stage. But there's one player I think will have a breakout group stage, and that is Johan Manzambi. Group C is a group with a very wide mix of quality. You have Haiti, Morocco, Brazil, and Scotland. In last place, and I hate to say this, I watched the game live. I was surrounded by their fans. They're very nice fans. They're very nice people. But I have to go with Haiti picking up 0 points in this group. I think that the squad is pretty talented, and they've added a big talent in Wilson Isidore, a big Premier League player playing for Sunderland this season. However, I think the skill gap between them and every other team in this group is just too wide. I think Jean-Rickner Bellegarde and Wilson Isidore as well will be very good for them in this group. However, the players around them are not up to that same quality and will probably let those two down. I predict a tough loss in that first game against Scotland, which will sadly set up a do-or-die situation against Brazil and Morocco, which is a nightmare situation for a small team. However, not all is lost, because if they can do something in that first game, I think they can come out with a big chance of being one of the best third-place teams and qualify for that next stage. In third place, I have Scotland, who I predict to finish with 4 points, guaranteeing qualification into the next stage. Scotland actually look very good going into this tournament, emerging from guaranteed qualification from Europe, beating Denmark 4-2 on the final day. The team overall is physical, robust, strong in the air, and very nasty to play against, making them a nightmare for every single team in this group. In this group, I expect McTominay and nearly Scottish champion Lawrence Shankland with Hearts to pick up goals coming from corners, crosses, any kind of ball in the box, and they will be there. In my prediction, I think that they'll win their first game against Haiti and then go on to lose against Morocco, setting up a final day clash with Brazil. And in that game against Brazil, I expect a Steve Clark masterclass, picking up a point against Brazil through a draw, meaning that they will finish with 4 points. A lot of people expect this team to finish first. And you know, I kind of see it too. But in second place, I have Morocco. Look, the team is extremely talented. And I think they beat Scotland and Haiti. However, in that first game against Brazil, with the introduction of so many new players and the introduction of a new manager, they might slip up. Overall, though, this means they finish a very strong second place with 6 points. I expect the possibly soon new Bayern Munich player Ismail Saibari and El Zelzouli to be very big players in the group stage for Morocco, on top of the regular, Brahim Diaz and Hakimi as well. A player, however, that I want people to really pay attention to, because I really love the player, is the defensive midfielder for Roma, Neil Al-Ainawi. And of course, in first, that leaves a Seleção Brazil finishing top of the group. You look at how they perform in every single group stage in past tournaments, and I kind of see like they're kind of like group stage merchants. And even in a group with Morocco, I expect that to continue as well. I see them finishing this group with 7 points, with a tough win coming against Morocco on the first day, and an even easier one coming right after against Haiti. However, I do think that on the last day of the group, when they're guaranteed first place, they're going to make a lot of changes to rest a lot of their players, meaning that Scotland will be able to get a draw, securing their third place qualification into their next round. Players to watch, the whole team. Okay, no, but seriously, if I had to pick just 4, I'm going with these 4. Ryan from Bournemouth, big player for me on FPL. What a baller. Moved to the Premier League this season, 19 years old, killing it. Igor Thiago, one of the top goal scorers in the Premier League. He kind of gets a bit disrespected from Premier League fans, but in my opinion, he's going to be big for Brazil this season, especially considering the fact that they don't have that number 9 that they used to have. On top of that, we're going with Endrick. Young player, moved to Lyon, killing it out there. I think he's going to have a breakout season as well, especially at this World Cup. And the final one, obviously, you have to go with Vinny Jr. In Group D, we have the final group with a host team, and a group that is also fairly evenly matched, with the host the United States of America, Paraguay, Turkey, and Australia. In fourth place, and I really hate to do it to them, but it's Paraguay. Look, don't get me wrong, Paraguay is a very good team, but in this group, a team needs to finish fourth, and looking at the rest of the competition, it's most likely going to be them. I see them being competitive in every single game in this group, but just not having enough to push the needle, sadly finishing on 2 points. A draw to the United States on the opening match, followed by a loss to Turkey, will set up a do-or-die match against Australia, who have a history of being spoilers of the party. Reflection on that, Duke's header! When we talk about this team, there are a lot of players that I really like. For example, I'm going to talk about Enciso, who I really like in his advanced role that he has with the team. Diego Gomez from Brighton. And of course, Omar Alderete. I don't even know if that's how you say his name. Like, I'm saying it very Arab-wise, but I don't care. Omar Alderete, the Sunderland center back, what a player he is. And he's going to be a massive factor for Paraguay in this group stage. In third place, and I know people will call me crazy for this, but I have the host, the United States of America. Pressure makes diamonds, right? But pressure can also lead to cracks. And with a team that I'm seeing USA fans and commentators and everything saying that they can win the World Cup, the expectation might be more than what the level of this team can handle. I see them picking up 4 points in this group with a draw to Paraguay on the opening day, followed by a loss to Australia. Never doubt them. And then on the do-or-die match against Turkey on the final game week, they'll do it, get a win, and guarantee them third place qualification into the next round with 4 points. Players to watch, the LeBron James of soccer, 100%. You gotta watch this. I think he has to perform. Captain America, this is the time. Everyone will be watching. Your whole country is watching. And I think he's gonna deliver. He has to. If they want to do anything in this tournament, he has to deliver. But there's a player I want to focus on a bit more, and that's Serginho Dest, who under manager Maurizio Pochettino has had an advanced role that I think is going to lead him to have a lot more impact on this United States team. In second place, I have the Socceroos Australia, the perennial underdogs in every tournament, or perennial under kangaroos. I'm here all night, guys. I see them in this group finishing second with 4 points, beating out the United States only on head-to-head. A loss on opening day is nothing new to Australia against Turkey, who I think will bounce back with a win against the United States, followed by a draw against a team in Paraguay who will be very desperate. Put simply, I want to highlight two players here. Watford's Iran Kunda and Norwich City's Mohamed Toure. Come back to this video when I get proven right. Top of the group, Turkey. They have the best team in the group. I think they're a dark horse in the whole tournament. And on top of that, their food's pretty. In all seriousness though, with Turkey, this is how I kind of see the group stage going. They win their first two games against Australia and Paraguay. And when they've guaranteed first place qualification, similar to what Brazil did in Group C, they kind of rest all their players. And then when the US are desperate for a win, they come and get their much needed victory. The players to watch, the young core of Arda Güler, Kenan Yildiz, and Can Uzun. Bro, scary, scary, scary times. Group E is not as even as the previous one. We have Côte d'Ivoire, Ecuador, Germany, and debutants Curaçao. And in last place in this group, sadly, it has to be the debutants, the Blue Wave Curaçao. This is a very tough tournament for them. And in their first ever tournament, they're playing 3 teams with massive international reputations. I see them, with full respect, finishing with 0 points and 0 goals. However, I hope former Manchester United man Tahith Chong can bang in a goal to give them something to celebrate. For Curaçao, my 2 ones to watch are 2 former Birmingham City players, Junior Bakunia and Tahith Chong, who can hopefully muster a goal between the two of them to give their country something to celebrate. In third place in this group, I have Ecuador, who I think will trouble every single team in this group. Put quite simply, I think they have one of the best defenses plus defensive mid combos in this whole tournament. Piero Hincapié, Estupinian, Pacho, Caicedo. Oh my god, you are not scoring against this team. Apart from their defensive prowess, the problem I see with Ecuador is going forward. Overall, I have them finishing on 4 points with a loss to Côte d'Ivoire on the opening day, a win against Curaçao on game week 2, and on the final game week against Germany, I see them drawing that match. The man who I think will make a big difference for Ecuador in this tournament, and a player that I haven't already mentioned, is Gonzalo Plata, who is a player that I've rated for a very long time. If there is a player for Ecuador that needs to take that next step, it's their young star Kendry Páez. However, what exactly that looks like remains to be seen. In second place, I'm going with Germany. Die Mannschaft, which sounds sus in any other language that's not Germany, I think can go undefeated in this group. But even with that being said, I don't think that this team is all that. Of course, you have the trio of Leonard Carl, Jamal Musiala, and Florian Wirtz, who I think will be cooking this whole tournament. However, the problem is really what's behind that. Julian Nagelsmann will probably choose to play Joshua Kimmich as a right back, which will mean that the duo behind those 3 attacking midfielders will probably not be as strong as Germany from previous eras. With that being said though, I do see Germany finishing with 5 points, going undefeated, winning against Curaçao in their first game, drawing against Côte d'Ivoire in their second game, and then in that third game, with first place position on the line, them choking to Ecuador, who will hold them to a 1-1 draw. And then with that being said, I have the winners of Group E being the youngest squad at this whole tournament, Côte d'Ivoire. Don't let the AFCON game against Egypt fool you. This team is so strong offensively and even stronger defensively. In this tournament, Les Éléphants will score goals and go undefeated just like Germany. But crucially, unlike Germany, I see them picking up a win against Ecuador in a very low-scoring 1-0 win. I see them finishing first in this group with 7 points, with a win against Ecuador, a draw to Germany, and then a win against Curaçao. When we're talking about a player to watch for Côte d'Ivoire, look, I hate to be that guy, but what everyone is telling you is true. Yan Diomand is that guy. Watch out for him. And now we move on to Group F. And look, before we start, I have to say I'm going to try and put my bias aside, as this group contains my heart: Tunisia, Sweden, the Netherlands, and Japan. In fourth place in Group F, I promise no bias, but I have Sweden. Sweden is a team that qualified through the European playoff spot, but if we go back and look at their qualification group, they had a shambolic run. Following a manager change, Potter came in and worked his magic. I'm talking about Graham Potter here, not Harry Potter. The team now is still inconsistent, but at least now they can win games. In this group, I see them finishing with 2 points, crucially losing against Tunisia in that opening game. I promise I'm not biased. I promise. And then following that, they will have 2 draws against the Netherlands and Japan before bowing out in 4th place. My player to watch for Sweden is the Tunisian Swede Yassine El Ayat. Okay, now I'm being biased. But honestly, if Sweden want to make it out of this group, they will need to figure out a way of functioning this Elanga, Isak, and Gyökeres trio. Because if they fire, if they start working, we're in trouble. In 3rd place, and breaking the group stage curse, I have Tunisia. Very quick, I'm going to be very brief when I talk about Tunisia, because respectfully, I can talk about them for a very long time. But if you do want to see a longer video about Tunisia, make sure to click here. If my prediction is correct and they beat Sweden on the opening day, I expect Tunisia, like always, to rest on their laurels and then lose to Japan before playing a 0-0 draw against Netherlands in the final game of the group, locking out those 4 points. Obviously, we're going to be talking about Hannabel Mejbri as the player to watch for Tunis. But if you want to go to a Tunisian fan and really flex your ball knowledge, the 3 players behind him that will be really important are Sebastian Tunekti, Khalil Ayari, and Omar Raqiq. We're moving on to 2nd place in Group F, and I have Japan. When we look at the Japanese squad, there are so many key injuries to key players. You're looking at Mitoma, you're looking at Minamino going into this World Cup. But I do believe that they still have a good enough squad to beat out Tunisia for that 2nd place spot, beating them on head-to-head. I predict for them a close contested loss to the Netherlands in the 1st game, following by a win against Tunisia, and then a draw against Sweden, locking out 4 points in that 2nd place spot. Even with all the injuries, Japan have a very solid squad, and my player to watch is Ao Tanaka, the player from Leeds, who has really impressed me in the Premier League this season. And despite not looking too good recently, I still have the Netherlands finishing 1st in this group. I see them in this group relying very much on their very strong midfield and defense, getting 5 points with a win coming against Japan on the 1st game, a draw to Sweden, and then another draw to Tunisia, locking out 1st place with 5 points. The big elephant in the room with the Netherlands is their attack, which completely honestly is not even 1/10 of what it used to be in previous generations. The big players to watch out for: Crescencio Somerville and Donyell Malen, who in my opinion are the only decent attackers in this whole Dutch setup. Group G is another group that is a very mixed bag. You have the likes of Belgium, Iran, Egypt, and New Zealand. In 4th, I have the All Whites, which, now that I'm saying it, does sound like a racist term, but I promise it's not. New Zealand. New Zealand have Tim Payne, but in this tournament, they will feel pain. Yeah, I should retire. I predict them not to score a single goal in this group. However, on second glance, a lot of the defenses in this group are very weak, so they might get a goal or 2. I predict them to get 1 point in their opening game against Iran in this group. However, I do see them losing the next 2 games against Egypt and a heavy loss against Belgium. My player to watch for New Zealand, Tim Payne. But that Doku test on the final game of the group, ay, scary times. In 3rd in this group, I have Iran. But the way I've predicted it, I don't think that they go through as one of the best third place teams. I predict them in this group finishing with 2 points from draws against New Zealand and Egypt, both sandwiching a loss against Belgium in game week 2. Leaving aside the political situation between Iran and the country that is hosting them, the United States, I feel like this is a squad that from previous years has aged a lot. My guy to watch for Iran is Amir Hossein Hosseinzadeh, if I pronounce that right. And not just because he has a really cool name. In second place, I have Dunya, the Pharaohs, Egypt, who will finally pick up a win at the World Cup. Right now, it's do or die for Egypt, especially with their main man, Mohamed Salah. The team is fairly old, let's be honest, and the days of punt to Salah and inshallah are over. However, this group is honestly a blessing for them. I see 4 points coming to the Pharaohs with a loss to Belgium on the first day, a win against New Zealand on game week 2, and then a very fun high-scoring draw against Iran on the final game week. The man to watch apart from Mohamed Salah and Marmoush, and I really do hope he gets some game time, the young Barca striker Hamza Abdelkarim. And with one of the first 9 pointers of the video, I have Belgium taking this group quite easily. The golden generation of Belgian football is dead. But they don't need that to qualify out of this group. Looking at the group, I see them winning all of their games quite comfortably, only conceding against Egypt in their opening match. The players to watch, obviously people are highlighting Jeremy Doku and the last dance of Kevin De Bruyne and Romelu Lukaku. But there's one player off the bench in Dodi Lokibakio who I think will be very scary for opposition in this group. In Group H, you have some people's favorite for the whole tournament, Spain, Uruguay, Cape Verde, and Saudi Arabia. In last place in this group, and I hate to do it again, but I have a Saudiya finishing with 0 points. Look, I know what you're thinking, but with every Saudi Arabia fan that I've had discussions with, they don't seem all that excited about this World Cup. And for a team, that is not something that you want to be feeling going into a World Cup. The first 2 matches are nightmares for them against Uruguay and Spain. And then going into that last game against Cape Verde, I think that the debutants Cape Verde will have more to fight for and actually beat them in that game. That being said, only one man can save them and change the fortunes for Saudi Arabia against what I've predicted. And that is the 34-year-old Salem Al-Dosari. Although, compared to what he used to be, he's aged quite a lot. I know this will get clipped, and I don't really care. But I fully believe that Cape Verde will get 3rd place in this group. In this group, I actually see them picking up 3 points despite a heavy loss to Yamal Spain in the first game and then another loss to Uruguay in their second game. The final game against Saudi Arabia will be their Cinderella story do or die moment. And I think compared to Saudi Arabia, I think they'll just have more fight in them, beating them 2-1. Obviously in this video, I've trashed on teams that have a very old squad. And this Cape Verde squad is not an exception to that. However, I think that this means they'll have more to fight for because I don't think that they will be back to a World Cup in a long time. There won't be another moment for a team in their prime like Cape Verde, and I see their goalkeeper Vojzinia being a massive factor in getting them out of the group stages. In second place in this group, I have La Celeste Uruguay. They've regressed quite a lot from the days of having the top striker talent in Cavani and Luis Suarez at the same time. However, I think that this group is a blessing for Uruguay for where they're at right now. My prediction for them is 6 points with a loss coming to Spain in the final day. However, the matches against Cape Verde and Saudi Arabia will be slim margins, but I do see them winning both those games. The standout, very obvious, the main man himself, the Real Madrid captain, Valverde. The second 9-pointer in this video, I have Spain taking this group. As of right now, Lamine Yamal is reportedly not going to play the first 2 games of the group against Cape Verde and Saudi Arabia. But let's be honest, you do not need Lamine Yamal, especially if you're Spain, to breeze past those 2 opposition. This is a team that have probably the 2nd best midfield in the whole tournament behind Portugal's, have a very strong defense as well, and have beautiful team chemistry, especially under manager De La Fuente. There might be a bit of a struggle against Uruguay on the last game day, but when Yamal comes back, I think that those struggles also go away. The standout for me in the group stage would be Lamine Yamal, but honestly, because he's injured and only going to play against Uruguay, I'm going to give it to a player that's heavily disrespected, and honestly, I don't know why, because he scores goals. Ferran Torres El Pescado. In Group I, we have Iraq, and then a powerhouse trio of the champions of Africa, Senegal, France, and then Norway. In last place in this group, I have to put Iraq with 0 points. And it's looking now that I'm putting all of the Asian Muslim countries in last. But like, they all have very tough groups. Let's be very honest. Look, it's tough. It's tough. It's a tough group. You're out for 40 years and you come back and this is your welcome. Yikes. Look, I don't know why I see them scoring a goal against France. But apart from that, it's not going to be a tournament to remember for Iraq. When we're talking about key players for Iraq, I'm going to talk about a player that used to play for Manchester United. A player that I was very fond of when he played for the Red Devils. Zidane Iqbal. If you don't know about him, you'll get to know watching Iraq this tournament. In third place, I have the AFCON champ. The AFCON champions, Senegal. Senegal are very solid defensively, apart from against that friendly against the United States. Have a very beautiful mix of young talent and very experienced players. And on top of that, going forward, they are dangerous. In this group, I see them getting 4 points with a loss to France, a draw against Norway, and then a win in the final day against Al Iraq. The player to watch for me, and it's a player that I hope gets a lot more game time than he's been getting recently, is the Paris Saint-Germain player Ibrahim Mbaye. Honestly, if you watched him in AFCON 2025, wow, what a talent he is. In second place, I'm actually going with France. Honestly, if we're talking about them in the whole tournament, I do think that they can reach the final, but I don't think they win this group. I feel that they will get wins against Senegal and Al Iraq, but when it comes to that match against Norway, oh my god, the Norwegian team is scary right now. And I think that they'll actually lose that game by slim margins. Obviously, the France-Norway game is the final game in the group for both those teams. And obviously, there might be some math involved when they're looking at other groups finishing before them and saying, we want to face this team and we want to avoid that team. But even then, I think Norway will still beat them and that France will still taste defeat in this group. The one to watch in this team, obviously the whole team is stacked, but there is one Ballon d'Or frontrunner in this team, and that is Michael Olise. And then in first place in this group, I have Norway winning the group with 7 points, going undefeated. Where do I begin? Scary team, scary team. The height in their attack, the pace on their wings. They have a weird enigma that no one's been able to solve. I'm seeing them even in friendlies, batter teams. You saw them in a group qualification with Italy, battered them, played them off the park. There's no way to solve brute force up front with Haaland and Sørloth up front. This is also considering the fact that a lot of teams did not factor in height when selecting their center backs going to this World Cup. So I feel like the Norwegian strike force of Haaland and Sørloth will find it easy to dunk on some of these center backs. If my prediction is correct, I think that Norway will go undefeated with a win against Iraq, a draw against Senegal, and a win on the last game of the group against France, securing that top spot. The players to watch, obviously apart from Erling Haaland, the duo of Nusa and Oscar Bob on the wings. Oh my god, deadly, deadly, deadly. In Group J, we have the debutants Jordan, the world champs Argentina, Algeria, and Austria. In last place, and I hate to say it because now people are going to think I'm doing it on purpose, but I'm not. I have Jordan finishing with 0 points, but I do think that they will still be competitive in the group. To be very blunt with this one, it's a very, very, very tough group. I see losses coming for them. But in each of their games, I still think they will be competitive considering they have strong attacking talent. The main man for Al-Nashama and the player that I think will do the best for Jordan is the 28-year-old Moussa Tamari, who I think will probably be the one to bag the goals if they do score. In third place in this group, I have Algeria. When talking about Algeria, this could very easily be a team that could make it super competitive for the world champions Argentina. A 12-year World Cup drought has led the Algerians to be very hungry, and with it also being Riyad Mahrez's last dance with the squad, they will make sure to make it count. In this group for Algeria, I predict a tough loss against Argentina in the first game, but they will bounce back with a win against Jordan before drawing against a very well-drilled Austria team. The men to watch in this game for me, obviously Haj Musa and Ibrahim Maza, both very techie ballers who are very fun to watch and will for sure entertain the masses. In second place, I have Austria, who are a super well-drilled team under Ralf Rangnick. The team is very hard to beat and can shock you when you least expect it going forward. Trust me, I've seen it firsthand when they were also down a man. In this group, I actually see them going undefeated with 5 points, getting a win against Jordan and then 2 draws against Argentina and Algeria. If I could pick a man that I know will perform in the group stage and beyond for Austria, it has to be the former Manchester United man Marcel Sabitzer, which is now further exposing my bias with Manchester United players as I somehow just keep picking them. In first place, I have Argentina. Wow, shock. But the one thing I have to say is I think they will be exposed heavily in this group. Despite my prediction of finishing first with 7 points undefeated, I still think that every single game they play, they will have trouble. And yes, even against Jordan. A win against Algeria and a win against Jordan, sandwiching a high-scoring draw against Austria, will show to the whole world that their back line is very easy to expose, especially considering the age of some of these players still playing in the Argentinian back line. The one to watch, Lionel Messi's last dance. Enough said. In Group K, we have yet another debutant in Uzbekistan, Portugal, Colombia, and the DRC. And in last place, and I wish it could be easier for a debutant, but I have Uzbekistan finishing with 0 points. Look, in my predictions, I don't think they will be blown out of the water being coached by a former Ballon d'Or winner in Fabio Cannavaro. But I don't think they will find anything easy in a group with such tough opposition. I see losses coming in all 3 of their games, with close games coming against Colombia and the DRC, where they will lose by only 1 goal. One to watch in this team is Kusanov, who sadly for him is the only player playing at the highest level in this team. In third place, I'm going to surprise some people, but I think Colombia finished third. This team is actually one of the oldest teams going into this World Cup. And they do have a very strong attacking talent with Luis Diaz and Luis Suarez. No, not that one. But even then, I don't think it's enough to get them past third in this group, even though I do think they will qualify to the round of 32. In this group, I see them getting 4 points, coming from a win against Uzbekistan, a draw against the DRC, and a loss against Portugal, who, let's be honest, are looking very dangerous in this group. Apart from Luis Diaz, the one to watch for me on this team specifically is Luis Suarez. In second place, I actually have a team that people will not understand why they're so high, but let me explain. I have the DRC. Formerly competing as Zaire in the 1974 World Cup, unlike the 1974 World Cup, this team will not be conceding 9 goals in 1 game, as their defense is one of their strong suits. Genuinely, as an African team, and even in a World Cup standard, this team is a defensive powerhouse. Teams will struggle to score against them. In this group, I see them getting 4 points and beating Colombia for the second place spot by goal difference, crucially because I only see them losing to Portugal 1-0. The player for me to watch in the DRC's super stacked squad is that midfield gem right there, Noah Sadiki. He's a player that will 100% impress at this tournament. And then in first place in this group, 9 points as well, I see Portugal winning the group. They have the best midfield in the world, a Cristiano Ronaldo dying for a World Cup. What's not to like about this Portuguese national team? When we're looking at my predicted 9 points for them, I think that they will struggle to score against the DRC, but I still see them winning that game. The ones to watch for the Portuguese national team can be a very long list, but I'll make it very easy. If they play for PSG, they will ball out. And if their name is Bruno Miguel Borges Fernandes, they will be immense in this tournament. The final group, Group L, has Panama, England, Ghana, and Croatia. And in last place, I have the oldest squad going into this World Cup, Panama. Genuinely, and I hope I'm wrong because they did give Tunisia a win in 2018, I think this will be one of the last times that we see Panama at a World Cup for some time. The squad is really old and they don't really look to have an influx of that many young talented players looking to replace a lot of the older players on the squad, meaning that they're going to be in a rebuild phase for some time following this tournament. The prediction for them in this group is they will finish with 1 point following a draw against Ghana in their first game. But the games against England and Croatia will be a struggle for them. And if they somehow manage to get some points out of that, man, they deserve it. In third place in this group, I have the Black Stars Ghana. Weirdly, they didn't qualify for the last AFCON, but here they are at the biggest stage, the World Cup, instead of Nigeria. The Black Stars have amazing attacking talent with Inaki Williams and Semenyo, and if Kudus wasn't injured, maybe I could boost them a bit higher, but defensively they aren't all that. I see them getting 2 draws against Panama and Croatia, but sadly that will not be enough because I also predict them to lose against England in match week 2. This leaves England and Croatia both fighting for first place. And in second place, I have to unfortunately go for the Unks, Croatia, finishing second. Despite Modric being in his 40s, I still think that he is a generational baller, and I still think that he will be a massive boost for Croatia in this tournament, especially it being his final tournament. I mean, unless he has plans to continue, which honestly, if you look at how he plays, he might even be able to do it. Croatia against England feels like a game that I've seen more times than I've seen my own family. But even with that being said, I still see England beating them in that game. With that being said, in my opinion, I think they'll finish on 4 points with a win coming against Panama and a final day draw against Ghana. When we're talking about players to watch for Croatia, anyone whose last name ends in Ich is probably going to be balling out. The final 9-pointer of the video, England top Group L without taking an L. I think in this group, they'll find a lot of joy scoring goals. And when we talk about them defensively, they aren't too bad either. A predicted big final day win against Panama will mean that they seal top of the group, 9 points, perfection without an L. And if you're asking my opinion, unfortunately, it might be coming home. The player to watch for me, apart from Ballon d'Or contender Harry Kane, is star boy Bukayo. No, I'm joking. It's Elliot Anderson for me, who I think will have a big move this summer to a big Premier League club, either hopefully Manchester United, but most probably Man City. And those are my predictions. Let me know down in the comments how you think your team will fare in this World Cup group stage. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe as more videos will be dropping. More World Cup content will be coming your way on this channel as we will be live going to Tunisia's games in Monterrey, in Kansas, and hopefully more games than just that. Anyways, thanks again for watching and I'll catch you guys on the next one.